What is going on? I'm zmoT. We're going to do something a little bit different in this video. We're going to talk about resource bases. Yes, these silly things here that do almost nothing good for you, and a few bad things actually if you're at a lower level. But more importantly, we're going to start out by talking about this boat right here, the resource boat, the boat that brings you wood, gold, iron, and stone from those resource bases and freed islands. Now, this boat has unlimited capacity. That means if you don't click on it, if you can refrain from touching it, you can fill your storages multiple times. So if you think there's going to be a big upgrade coming for you, like you want to upgrade your sculptor to level 8, or you want to upgrade your landing craft, or maybe you're saving to upgrade your cryoneers to max, or you're trying to save a whole bunch of resources to get some raw crystals, or you think there's going to be a Boom Beach update coming at some time in the distant future, don't touch the boat. It's really hard. There's a whole bunch of euphemisms about trying not to touch your boat, but what we're going to do here is talk about the resource boat first of all. And now, just so you're aware, there is a launch screen in Boom Beach that says the resource boat has a cap. That is old. That's fake news. That's from like 3 updates ago when they forgot to remove it. So you can refill your storages like 3 times if you don't touch your boat. I'm not going to get into the math because I don't know it off the top of my head, but the bottom line is don't touch the boat. Hashtag don't touch the boat. Anyways, what we're going to do here is talk about resource bases, why you should leave them alone, and maybe why you want to take them. Now, there's not a lot of good coming from taking them. It pushes your VP up, which gives you harder bases, and you waste troops and gold and time on it. So typically, you'll see here a lot, if not all of my resource bases have been taken. Now, there is a psychological part of this that I really do enjoy once you take someone's resource base, just absolutely crushing it. So what we're going to do here, we're going to use some zookas. We're going to take all the resource bases on my map and then talk about why you should not take them. So let's just get going. Maybe we can do something fun and interesting. Now, why I like to use zookas to do this is because it gives that psychological kick in the pants when someone struggles to take your resource base and they lose like 90% of their troops and you lose none of them. I get a huge kick out of that. So what we're going to do here, we're going to do a side drop. Now, this is exactly why resource bases are absolutely useless. One of the reasons, this kind of beach is nothing to do with Boom Beach. These weird shaped beaches that take like 4 smokes to attack have nothing to do with Boom Beach. You don't see those kind of beaches anywhere except for on NPCs and resource bases. So is there an advantage to doing this? No, you're not going to learn anything. All you're going to do is end up attacking this weird shaped base where you have to use weird smokes to attack, and it's just, there's nothing good about that. You're not going to get some sort of practice out of it, or it's very, very strange. Now, I lost a couple of troops. We didn't shock Bullit in a prime location. I also didn't use critters. Probably should have, but nonetheless, resource base number 1, mucho big boy. We lost 1 full boat of zookas. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the outpost and we're going to move it all the way to the shore, because really, I don't care if they take it back. What the best case scenario is he takes it, then moves the outpost back, and then we crush his dreams again. So I really do like this psychological part. And if they leave it there, great. Happy to trade it back and forth. It's an easy way to get your supply chest. Move that outpost to the front. Make it super easy. Heck, we can even go back in here and move the rocket launchers back so they don't range the shore to be extra super nice. That way, if I have 5 and they have 5, we just fill up our supply chest without any effort whatsoever. Now, why you would not want to take resource bases is the higher your victory points, the harder the bases you get. As you've likely seen, if you're a low level, you play the game a ton, you get a lot of fun, and then all of a sudden you start getting level 65s when you're like XP 40 or something like that. And that happens a ton. Boom Beach almost punishes you for playing too much, and as a result, you see a lot of people have a really hard time with their troops and with their attacks. So if you have fewer than 500 victory points, I don't think you should ever, let's get one more smoke out there, attack a resource base. Resource bases give you such little rewards that it's just not worth it. Let's shock Bullit. Now, this is one of the things that I really do like about resource bases. It gives you an opportunity to practice shocking Bullit, which works incredibly well on operation attacks and things like that. We're going to go like this. Throw a medkit on top of all of our zookas for the ones close to Bullit. And so far my attacks have been beyond mediocre. I would put these at like a 5.5 out of 10. But all of these things attacking you at once make it super critical to keep the delay, to place your troops well, to shock Bullit in a good spot. So overall, it's good practice. And if your map is completely empty, then sure. But otherwise, the only reason I'm doing this is I want to get as many resources in that boat as I possibly can. And that's probably silly, but I might as well reward myself for not touching my boat, right? So let's do a nice little side droppy over here. These kind of beaches at least are regular shaped. I'm just not placing my smokes well. Typically speaking, my smokes and things would be far better than that, but just not having a good morning. Definitely need to get that second coffee on the go. Now we're going to go like this, and I think maybe I can get Bullit in a slightly better spot here. Don't actually know, but we'll find out in about 3, 2... Now, what you will need to do is just shock all of the things that might range your troops. All of my troops, I only have one shock there, sadly, because I wasted an extra smoke. But you don't want to get Bullit in a place where he's going to draw some fire from the one side, and then only have to throw one shock on the other side. So still not super good. Typically, I can take resource bases with 0 troops lost. Now, here's a bug for you. This is a bug that's been around forever. When you take a resource base, you'll notice there's no ability to reload your troops. We go back to our main island, and look, oh, there comes the button. So small bug that's been around forever. One more reason why attacking resource bases is not worth it, because you have to come back to reload your troops, and it's a bit of a pain. The other way I believe you can do it is if you attack and then retreat, the button comes, but that's no fun either. So let's try and get a somewhat decent attack. Now, if you go from this side of these wonky beaches to this side, you can actually fit 4 boats underneath smoke on the right-hand side of that beach. If you get far, 1, 2, 3, 4, so they stack up. But over here, you can only get 2 to 3 boats if you go from the right side. So it's these weird beaches. I don't know what the point of them is. They're not on operation attacks. They're not on any PvP. So if you enjoy attacking those kind of bases, all the power to you, but I really don't enjoy these wonky no smoke beaches or these 3 to 4 smoke beaches. So let's get a flare all the way into the corner there, see if perhaps we can't get all of our troops under 3 smokes, because using 4 smokes for the beach is just disheartening. I think we managed to do it. But now we got to get this smoke up here because our troops are going to come on this weird little angle. It's just not... I mean, it's good practice for smoking your troops, but it's not actually used anywhere else in the game. So I would love to hear their explanation of why they have this second type of beach, because it just doesn't compute to me. It's just this weird scenario that... Let's get some medkits out here and hope that that rocket launcher does not destroy. Just not going well. Things are not going well. And this is why, if you're waste spending gold to get resource bases, it just doesn't make sense. And the other thing is, if you're going to do a victory point push, so if, say for example, you have this goal of getting 1400 VP or 1200 VP or whatever it might be, what you want to do is leave all these resource bases completely untouched, so you can get as high as you possibly can and then get a quick influx of 15, 20 victory points from all of your resource bases. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Resource bases are a great way to bank victory points, but actually having them on your existing victory points really doesn't make any sense, unless, of course, you're hoping to get that extra diamonds for catching all 35 resource bases or whatever that achievement is. Now, Bullit, of course, is going to make things a little bit difficult for us because I didn't drop him in the right spot. That's why I don't like to use a flare on these. Oh, apparently I did not. That could explain why I'm losing so many zookas. I apparently have not checked my tribes. So, bit of a dumb moment there. Let's check the tribes. So, there we go, zooka health. I assumed we had zooka health. We did not. That is going to make our attacks so much easier. Also going to throw in the artillery cost direct. That explains why I am just being a complete dum-dum. So, first rule of thumb is always check your tribes because, yeah, tribal reset has apparently happened and I have totally and utterly botched it. So, hopefully at this point things get a little bit better because using those cheap artillery makes life so much easier. Now, let's get rid of you 3 buildings right there. Using the cheap artillery. Wow, amazing what happens when you do things properly. So now, let's get over into here. We're going to drop our troops nice and wide. 1, 2, 3. That smoke was not in a great spot, as you can see by the fact that I did not get all of my troops underneath it. Now, Bullit apparently got to that flare and then decided that he was at the flare, which I don't think he was. Man, this is one of those videos that I am so tempted to delete, but I find that people enjoy failures, so we're going to celebrate the failures. And we're just going to get all of our troops nice and wide back into here, hopefully throwing proper shocks. See how suddenly we have a few more shocks because I have actually used the cheap artilleries. Bullit pops out, draws the taunt, and the zookas. Oh, suddenly things are going a little bit better. Odd. Okay, so tribes are now fully boosted to our advantage. Should I be using resource reward? Maybe. I'm going to skip on that, though. Just trying to stock as many resources into our resource boat as we possibly can. And this resource reward is not going to help with that, sadly. Helps with attacks. It does not help with generation, though. So let's get going. Hopefully get some not terrible attacks, because so far our attacks have been in the terrible range. And my goal here is to educate, not so much entertain, and so far it's been more into the entertaining simply because the attacks have been terrible. We're going to go right into there, which is not a good path because our troops are going to walk on this weird 45, but I guess that's part of the learning as well. We're going to shock Bullit right there. So the trick is you want to walk in straight 45-degree angles, not in that weird wonky thing that I just did. And then we're just going to shock here, and that should hopefully get all of the things. We're going to throw a medkit on top of our troops. See how much better things go when you actually have GBE. So maybe you want a full boost to do this, especially if you don't have instant training. Also, a great way to take down resource bases. Probably the easiest way is with warriors. Warriors are so perfectly geared towards resource bases because resource bases tend to be clustered towards the very back, and you can get Bullit in front, and it just works incredibly well. So now that we actually can attack and hit a mine, as I thought we could all along, we're going to do our same sort of drop. We're going to drop Bullit and some zookas, and we're going to get right up into here and hit this mine in the process, which is fine as long as you plan to hit the mine. And then we're going to walk over into there and go 1 and 2 and shock Bullit. Now you want to shock Bullit as soon as you can in that smoke. Otherwise, the smoke lasts longer than the shock. The shock lasts longer than the smoke. Sorry, I spoke that backwards. And bad things happen. So do please make sure that you shock Bullit as soon as you throw that smoke, or very close. I think smokes are 13 seconds and shocks are 10, I believe, just off the top of my head. So you need to shock Bullit in the first 3 seconds of that smoke so that when he pops out, he's actually taunting. Otherwise, he'll pop out and bad things will happen. So please do let me know if you like attacking resource bases, if you want to take resource bases, and why you attack them. For me, it's all about, I get a kick out of watching people fail to take them, or they lose like 90% of their troops, and then I come back and take it with 0 troops lost or 1 troop lost, which, as you can see, today has not happened because my attacks have been terrible. But especially if you're doing it fully boosted, it is ridiculously silly when someone comes in and loses all of their troops and spends all kinds of gold to get like tiny bits of resources. I can't believe that shock actually hit Bullit, to be completely honest. I thought for sure that would have missed. We're going to throw critters over into here, throw a shock, and another shock, and some medkits. And that's what it's supposed to look like, taking down a resource base. So, finally getting into our groove, now that we've actually used the tribes to our benefit, losing 0 troops, and crushing resource bases in the process. So, hopefully those of you that started watching didn't leave because of my terribleness of attacks. If you did, that's okay, because I can hold a little bit of my head up not terribly low because of those starting attacks. Now, I always find that on this right-hand side of the beach, I throw my smokes way too far right. I don't know what it is. If you guys have a tip of where to actually place them, I would love to see it. I just don't like these beaches whatsoever. So if you have a tip of how to use zookas or other troops on these wonky, weird beaches, besides the things that I've already said, I would love to hear them. Shocking Bullit a little bit early. Now we're gonna figure he's gonna walk towards the core, so I need to throw the taunt first of all. I'm gonna throw some critters over here, and we're gonna shock these rocket launchers that are in behind us, hopefully having Bullit and the critters to our advantage. Critters are so important. I gotta say, yes, shocking Bullit is great, but for these weird shaped ones, throwing critters off to the side just before your smokes clear can be super advantageous too. So use your critters, use your Bullit, and hopefully they fix this resource base reinforcement bug, because it's kind of annoying. Almost done. As you can see, our victory points have gone up by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is not a huge deal unless you're sitting at like 490 or something like that, or even lower. Having a low VP when you're a low-level player definitely has advantages. So don't waste your victory points on resource bases. Use them to take actual bases. Drop yourself a resource reward statue or boost this Life Well tribe over here. Please don't waste your time on resource bases unless you're level like HQ 20 or higher even. Below that, I just really think it's a bad idea to attack resource bases. But at the same time, if you guys have differing opinions, please throw them out there. The consensus, as far as I am aware, is that resource bases are a waste of time. If you have a different thought, I would love to hear it. Please do back it up with some details or facts or whatever you'd like to throw my way, because I just really don't see the point of resource bases, except for this video. That's why I have not done anything resource base related for a long time, if ever, because I just can't stand behind resource bases. They're this weird, silly thing that, since they've added the destroy feature to NPCs, just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So please do throw some comments out there. I'd love to hear your guys' and gals' thoughts on resource bases, but spending troops and diamonds and gold to get resource bases just doesn't really make sense to me. Besides, I really do, like I said, the psychological part where you're like just beating someone, like beating them. Sometimes it'll take like 40 attacks before they finally give up and find a new opponent, and I really do enjoy that part of it, but that's only when I have a ton of time. And typically I won't do that to all resource bases. Just pick one and just keep poking that person and just like let them know that you're not going to take it. Now, one thing that I've forgotten to do amongst all of this is to remove the outpost to the shore. And so I'm going to try and do that from now on. And I highly recommend that. Like, it's a good way almost to say hi to someone on your map. And for those people who are playing in a limited amount of time, it's a great way to get that supply chest, especially if you don't have the destroy feature yet, because the destroy feature only comes when you have the tribes for that area, I believe. So maybe you don't want to deal with getting your supply chest, or it's a complete pain to get your supply chest. I don't know if that actually classifies as win trading. Hopefully it doesn't, because if it does, it's against the terms of services. But get your troops, take the resource base, move the resource outpost to the shore, and say hi to the person. Other thing I've seen people do is write actual words with the resource base. Obviously, it needs to be a lower level, so we can write like hi over in here. H, let's get an H in here. Ba-ba-da. Every time I try and do this, I scroll my screen. Not super easy to do, clearly, because I am trying to rush. You get the idea. Let's, more importantly, we'll move the outpost base over to this side, and we'll just keep writing our little message and see if they don't come back and take it over. You'll see that some people take a long time to get it. Like, they are just so intent on keeping their resource base that they will just fight and fight and fight, and then they realize, well, you're probably not going to give up, and you're maybe a little bit better player than I am. So like it's kind of funny to watch just to watch someone go from like, I am going to beat you, to oops, I can't beat you. So if you guys have something you like to do with your resource bases, or if you have a trick to not touching your resource boat, please do let me know, because it's one of those silly little things that doesn't really warrant a lot of attention in Boom Beach, but at the same time, it's a fun little mini game that you can make up for yourself. Now, I think that we've managed to take all of the resource bases. One way to check, actually, is you can do a quick count somewhere in here so you can see how many, I think, if you check the wiki, I believe there is 41 or 42 resource bases available. You can see how many they're coming in. So we have 14 wood, 14 stone, and 14 iron. That seems to me like that would be a good enough. There you go, 42. So I think there are 42 resource bases. So I think we've got them all. And that's an easy way to get this, what is that called? Achievement, where you end up with, they're all 35. So take your resource bases quick. I think it's 50 diamonds. Anyways, that's it for me, taking all of the resource bases and not touching this boat. It's amazing how hard it is to not touch that boat. I don't know what it is. If you guys have a trick, or if you haven't touched your boat in months, please do let me know in the comments. Otherwise, as always, thanks for coming in. I'm zmoT. Peace.